Hi everyone, it's Ali here again with more songwriting tips for you. Hello to all the new subscribers we've had in the last few days. It's great to have you. Make sure you say hello below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And welcome, of course, to all the new people that are watching one of my videos for the first time. It's great to have you. Today I want to talk about how to find inspiration for songwriting. If you've been writing songs for a while, but perhaps you're getting a bit bored of what you're writing about, you just feel you're coming up with the same ideas over and over again, whether that's musical or lyrical. Today I want to give you my top tips on how to find inspiration for songwriting. Okay, so before we get into the tips, I want to get rid of a little myth that everyone often has when they first start songwriting, and that's that you have to wait for inspiration to hit before going and trying to write. Please don't do this, it doesn't really work. You might get some inspiration every now and again, and that's often where the spark of a song idea comes from, but you don't just have to sit and wait around for it to come to you, you can actually go out and find it. So these tips are going to give you some ideas on how you can go and find inspiration rather than sitting around waiting for it to fall into your lap. So first tip before we even start is don't wait for song inspiration to hit, go and find it. So my next tip, if you're struggling for inspiration, is to go for a walk. It might seem like a really little thing, but often it can be a really helpful way to process our thoughts. I don't know whether it's because we're often so busy in our everyday lives and we don't really take moments to think often. We're kind of just busy getting on with stuff. But actually going out for a walk with no agenda, nowhere we're trying to get to, can be a really helpful way to process those thoughts and start to come up with different ideas from them. To take in what's been going on in everyday lives recently, conversations we've been having with people, to start to process those into different thoughts and to come up with different song ideas based on them. So go out and explore where you live. It doesn't matter whether you live in a big city or a small village, there's always plenty of places to explore that can provide inspiration for the next song idea. If you live in a small village, perhaps in the countryside somewhere, then perhaps it's going out and exploring new areas of the countryside, getting into nature that can provide inspiration for that next song idea. If you live in a city or a town, it might be exploring those streets you've not been up before, finding new shops you've not been into. Any of these can provide inspiration for our next song idea. While you're out and about, look out for any museums or galleries you might not have been in. These can often be a really great source of inspiration too. Particularly, I like going in galleries and reading kind of the descriptions and the thought behind the artist's work. Particularly the language they use in these descriptions can often be really interesting. Very often they have a really interesting perspective on their work and how they phrase what they've done and why they've done it. And these can provide really great lyric ideas or song topics. I've used this quite a few times and it's a really great way to come up with different ideas. So following on from the last tip, my next tip is to use social media to curate inspiring content. If you generally just use social media to talk with your friends and send each other memes and stuff, I'd highly recommend you start using social media to search out various creatives. There's an awful lot of amazing creatives on social media. It's where everyone is nowadays anyway, but particularly a lot of creatives are starting to use social media to really showcase their content and the stuff they create. And it can be a really great way to find inspiration. Certain social media platforms can be better for this than others. I really like Instagram and YouTube for this. I use both of them quite a lot for getting sources of inspiration and saving them for later to come back to when I need to come up with some ideas or some inspiration for a new song. I think Instagram's a really great place to find different creatives, whether it's artists or songwriters or poets, whatever it might be. I often find there's different people on there that really inspire me to go and create. There's lots of singer-songwriters, for example, showing the kind of the progress of their songs as they're working on them. That can be really inspiring. I found things such as Blackout Poetry from that, which can be really interesting. I'll put a link in the description. I'll probably do a video soon on Blackout Poetry because I think it's a really interesting way of coming up with lyrics. but those have been really inspiring for me. There are some great storytellers on social media who can be really great sources of inspiration. Putting ourselves in those people's shoes and imagining ourselves in those situations can provide amazing sources of inspiration for songwriting. Or perhaps we write songs for them in their situation. Well, how would we respond to those situations? Those can provide amazing starting points for song ideas and for lyrics. My next tip is to try new ways to express yourself creatively. I talked a bit before about Blackout Poetry, and although generally I'm not a fan of poetry, I think a lot of that has to do with being forced to do it at school. And generally when I've read poetry, I've not really got much out of it and it's not really resonated with me. But I find Blackout Poetry to be a really inspiring thing. If you don't know what it is, you basically take a piece of text, for example, a page from a fiction book, and you black out the words until you end up with a poem from within that text. I thought this was a really inspiring idea, and I thought, wow, I'm sure I could come up with lyrics by doing that. So it's something that I'm experimenting with at the moment, and if you've never looked at it, I'd recommend going and checking it out online and perhaps trying it to come up with song lyrics of your own. Even if the things you experiment creatively aren't directly related to songwriting, I don't think it really matters. Whether it's taking a camera and shooting various things you see, or whether it's perhaps doing some painting or some drawing, whatever it might be, I all think this really helps with expanding our creativity anyway. And I think once you come back to songwriting, that can really often help provide new inspiration and help us see things in a way we hadn't done before, all which to me really helps with coming up with inspiration for the next song idea. My next tip is to try playing a completely new instrument. If you're a guitar player and you spend most of your time playing guitar, picking up the piano or the drums or the bass can be really inspiring. I often find that because a chord sounds so different on a piano compared to how it does on a guitar, because of the way the chords are voiced, it can often provide completely new inspiration, and you come up with completely different ideas on a guitar that you would on a piano or a bass or whatever it might be. So it can give you completely different ideas that you wouldn't otherwise get. Or it might be not playing an instrument at all, but trying to write a song using only household items. If you want to know what this might sound like, take a listen to someone like Andrew Huang. His YouTube channel is amazing. For example, he's got a song where he did a version of Bruno Mars' 24 Karat Magic, but only using 24 carats.
Put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe so flare. Pop.
This kind of stuff really inspires me and gets me thinking outside of the box. And because this kind of stuff is so unusual and we're not used to hearing these kind of sounds, it often fires off creative ideas that we otherwise wouldn't have had. So my penultimate tip is to co-write. If you're used to just writing on your own, sitting and writing with someone else can be really inspiring. It might take a while to find someone that you enjoy working with, but if you're creative with the way you co-write, often you can find this to be a really inspiring way of coming up with songs. I found a really cool video recently with James Poyser and some other guys just playing piano, and they would play a little idea and then the next person would jump on and play another idea, and they'd kind of go around in a circle. It's a really cool idea and it looks really good fun. I could see how you could use this for melody ideas quite easily. If one of you started off and played the first bar of the melody, the next person could come up with the next bar, and you could go on like that until you come up with the whole section. It could be a really good way of getting yourself unstuck if you become uninspired during a writing session. So I'd recommend having a go with that for fun. Don't worry if you live in a small town or a small village and there's not really many people around you to co-write with. Online, there's tons of people you can find to co-write with through YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. You can go online and find different people that you can co-write with. I recommend having a look and checking it out if you have not co-written with anyone before. It can be really inspiring and help you to come up with new ideas. So last but not least, whatever you do to find inspiration, make sure you have fun. I think it's a really good idea just to think about, if I was trying to write a song and have fun, what would I do? Would it be messing around with random household items, or would it be going and writing with a friend? Whatever you think would be really good fun, I'd suggest going and doing that. The more fun you have, generally the more inspired you're going to be. So constantly making sure you're having fun is probably the best way to be inspired, to stay inspired, and to come up with great song ideas. If you've liked this video, please click the thumbs up, and if you want to see more of this content, please subscribe using the button below. Thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again in the next video.